Hey everybody, it's Matthew Orr back again for Wet Ink Games, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, my partner in crime, buddy for a long time, brother-in-law, Brandon Aten. Hey Brandon.
Hey, what's up, Matt?
Uh, so Brandon is, he's got lots of nerd cred. He's worked for Whiz Kids and Palladium Books, Third Eye Games, Nerdburger. You wrote for Gallant Night Games, like just lots and lots of credits in the industry. Also, this guy, he's the host of a weekly game for like 11 years. Like, this is our regular play group. You can't have a regular play group without like the guy who's willing to have the game room. This is the guy. Uh, so, yeah, and runs a charity auction for nerds every year as well. Just he's all right. I think we'll keep it.
Good. It's glad to be kept.
All right. So, Brandon, we have to start. We have to know what side you come down on. All right.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. Marvel's Dazzler or DC's Batman.
Oh, that's easy. DC's Batman. Dazzler is the absolute worst. Like,
But I know you don't like Batman either.
It's
So
not
that's
that I
why I threw it
don't.
out
It's
there.
not that I don't like Batman. I don't like Batman fanboyism. I. It's like I think Batman's great. I think he's a compelling character. I think when especially when you get good writers behind him, get very intriguing stories. It's it's like Batman has an answer for everything. That's the stuff I don't like. I'm like, no, like he's a guy who's crazy in a suit, and you put him in with the Justice League, and you're like, oh well, Batman obviously has his kryptonite dart gun, in every air duct ever. So if Superman goes crazy, he's great. I'm like, no, Batman might have a plan, but I would love to see those situations where it's like Batman doesn't have a plan for this. Yes, he can figure it out because he's the world's greatest detective, but so I don't necessarily have a problem with Batman. Dazzler, on the other hand, she has never ever been a compelling character for me, and even when she was included in like the old X-Men arcade game, I was like, wow, that is such a throwaway character. And I know that she was a character that was always, that she was very important at the time, and Marvel was trying to tap into the whole MTV punk music like feel, and I don't know. You see Dazzler, you know, you would see her in everything, and she would come up in places where you would never really expect her. And so I I guess I can see the appeal of her for musicians and the people who are on that in that kind of music scene and stuff like that. And I never was. So Dazzler, I'm like, don't care. You know, I don't care about her power set. I don't care about her on roller skates. I don't care about her with her short hair and her brown leather jacket. I don't care. However, you give me Storm all day, give me
Sure.
Mohawk punk rock Storm, whatever. But she wasn't in the equation. Batman.
All right. So, on the positive end, DCU's Wonder Woman or MCU's Captain Marvel?
I'm gonna say Wonder Woman.
All right.
Um, I mean, I didn't mind the Captain Marvel movie. I liked it, as a kind of prequel serial, setup piece for her as a hero. However, like I like Wonder Woman as a character. I like the whole like Themyscira and like the ties to all the Greek mythology, and I love all that. I also really dug because we're specifically DCU, the movie Wonder Woman. I love that it was, took place in World War One, which is, World War One holds a very special place in my heart and in this household because of, never going home and other things. And I really liked it. I liked it better when the movie was Captain America: First Avenger, because it's literally the same plot. But I like Wonder Woman.
All right. So I'm going to hold you to more lightning round style answers now for the next few. Okay.
Okay.
Bald 11 or Bald Ripley?
That's so tough. I'm gonna say I'm Bald Ripley. I mean, I'm gonna say Bald Ripley because she's just such a badass. And yeah, Bald Ripley.
All right, excellent. All right, so you've been associated with Palladium for a long time. So New West or Warlords of Russia?
Warlords of Russia. I mean, I love New West, but Warlords of Russia, just big, giant robots smashing, or cyborgs smashing each other.
Right.
And plus, you can't beat that John Zelazny cover. Like,
it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I love John Zelazny. He's a great dude. I love all his stuff. But that cover especially is just so amazing.
It's why the Sovietsky exists.
That's why the Sovietsky exists. Exactly. I mean, I might sell a kidney for that original art. John Zelazny, I know, I'll tag you in this when it goes up. Or heck, John, I don't even have to sell it. If you want a kidney, I'll give you a kidney.
Right. All right. Pork loin or beef brisket?
Brisket, if done right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. One of those yellow cakes you make from a box, or like a grocery store apple pie?
Grocery store apple pie. I'm laughing
like the half
because
one that you can get in a little plastic shell.
I'm laughing because I did we had our groceries delivered yesterday, and when I was doing the click list, I was talking to your sister, my wife, and said, I may or may not have ordered an apple pie.
All right. Apple pie.
It's on my stove right now.
There you go. All right. So there you go, everybody. Now you know where Brandon stands on these character and food choices.
Pie.
Pie.
I'll almost always stand with pie.
All right. Stand with pie. That's new hashtag for us. All right. So this is going to be coming out probably in September sometime, and we did a big thing this year with Jiangshi, Blood in the Banquet Hall being a big Kickstarter that we ran, our biggest Kickstarter ever. So I want to talk about Kickstarter with you, Brandon.
Yeah.
And before we even get into like any of the wedding game stuff, like, you're a guy who backs a lot of projects, like,
yeah,
and you follow projects, and like you were telling in our chat the other day that you're one of those people that when they send you the link about where the boat is that has your stuff on it, like you'll always go and check and see where the boat is. Like,
I will check at least once,
right.
Yeah.
But that is infinitely more involved than I have ever gotten with a Kickstarter.
Yes.
So like, just tell me about like, what is it about Kickstarter and the process of backing them and following the news? What is it that it's for you? It's for you.
So, from the consumer side, the backer side, I have always loved I've loved the idea that Kickstarter and other crowdfunding platforms allow you to support the ideas that a creator may have that may not ever see the light of day without crowdfunding. Like, we've taken this to a publisher and they're like, no, you get to see someone's elevator pitch. You get to see what they want to do, and it can be exciting to want to help them. And Kickstarter, since, I've started backing, I've backed almost 300 Kickstarters at this point. And so, yeah. And so like over the from when I first started backing on Kickstarter to now, Kickstarter has definitely evolved. You still have those, you still have those projects where it's like, I really just have this dream and I want to make it a reality. Will you help me? And you have companies like Simon who, or Come On, I think is what they prefer to be called, but where they're going to hit $3 million on day one to put out, Massive Darkness or Zombicide or whatever. And they have like absolutely gorgeous minis and beautiful components and all kinds of stuff to spread out over your table and play a game. Which I see the value in both. But as a consumer, like the appeal to me is, I love being able to throw my support behind a project that I know I will like, just based on what it is, whether or not I play it every week, whether or not I just pick it up, flip through it and read it. It's, I at least know that I have helped someone else realize their dream, and that is awesome to me. One of the things that I've really dug, and I think Eric Bloat from Bloat Games actually turned me on to this initially, was when they did Zine Quest. The first Zine Quest, I believe, was last year, and you see some of these zines that have been on Kickstarter for a while, and I've never really been a zine guy, but with Zine Quest, Eric had told me about a couple that were pretty cool, and I picked up a couple after the fact because I missed the first one. And then Zine Quest 2 that happened this past year, I backed probably about 5 or 6 of them, because there's not a huge upfront investment, and they don't take up a lot of shelf space, and there's some really awesome, cool ideas. Yeah. And yeah, it's just a cool platform, and it's great to see how people are using it now. So
yeah, cool. All that sounds pretty awesome. I mean, I guess it's about that. I don't know. Back in the day, when the internet was first like kind of a thing, there was this concept of the long tail, where like you didn't have to sell thousands of units of a popular product to people. You could sell dozens of units of a very specific niche product, mm-hmm. and still have overall large amounts of sales. And I don't know, I think Kickstarter is sort of, oftentimes it allows that, in theory anyway, it allows for that same sort of thing, where you get, this is the project that's exactly for you,
Oh yeah, well, so Kickstarter will even do, like, based on the stuff that you've backed before, hey, here's some recommended projects or whatever.
Oh yeah, but their targets are pretty good. They're like, yes, I am also interested in that.
I am also interested in that. Well, I mean, and most of the time when I get recommended a product, I don't really, dive into it or whatever. I'm like, because I check Kickstarter so frequently, it's rare that I haven't already seen it, and if I'm interested in it, I'll back it. But like, there was one that was just that was just up the other day, that I was recommended, Orbital, which is it's also a zine size thing where you kind of build a space station with your gaming group, and then you have to, your game is to make sure that it stays operating and around. And I was like, man, if this, you could very easily play this like Babylon 5 or Deep Space Nine or whatever, or crazy drunk astronauts on a decrepit ISS, like, you can do whatever you want. And it just appealed to me, and I was like, and the art was gorgeous, and I had not seen it, and when it came up, I was like, click, yes, absolutely. It's just, you're right. You can very easily, find things which will appeal to you, and the breadth of ideas just in the tabletop games category is stunning. I mean, you see people who are making board games, making card games, doing their own RPGs, doing zines, doing storytelling games that are so out there, they would never be picked up by or I mean, 5 years ago would never have been picked up by a major company or anything like that. And these are just absolutely stunning, amazing games. So, big
Awesome.
fan.
Yeah. So let's turn it to the more professional side, because we are like part of the industry, right? Which still feels a little weird to say, but like I think we can't deny it anymore. We've been doing this for a few years now. So, what is the most recent Kickstarter that you ran as a person who runs them? You know, like a created, I get a creator. What are the creators? The term, right?
Yeah.
Was Jiangshi Blood in the Banquet Hall with
Mm-hmm.
Game and a Curry and Sen and Banana and that partnership that we did with them. But a lot of that fell on your shoulders because you're the one who does our Kickstarters. So what are some of the biggest stretches that you had to do as a person who runs Kickstarters to get to the levels that we got with that Kickstarter?
So with that Kickstarter, I mean, that was our first Kickstarter that we had done as a partnership with another company. This is our first game that is not just a Wet Ink Games production. This is a Banana Chan and Senfung Lim had they designed and developed Jiangshi Blood in the Banquet Hall, and it's just a completely awesome product, completely rad game, and bringing that entire group together was pretty great. The design team from the game design and graphic design perspective, other artists and other writers coming on board. A lot of those connections Banana and Sen had already had. And they had been promoting this game at different conventions for, I think, a year and a half, 2 years before it even came out. This was the first time, because when we first, signed our partnership agreement, we started talking about it. There was already, a murmur that it was coming to Kickstarter. That was already out there. When we started promoting the fact that the Kickstarter was going to launch on a particular date and started putting the Kickstarter link out there so people could be notified on day one, we put it out about a month ahead of time, and the amount of traction that we were seeing was pretty stunning. And that's something that we had done before, but we'd put it out there maybe a week or two before. But we actually not only put it out there and shared it on social media, we did promoted Facebook posts and everything to get that out there first. Talk about the game, get it out there to as many people as we could, as early as we could, which, I've seen happen in the past, but this was our first real foray into not just sharing it, but promoting it, like legitimate promotion of the early link before the project was even out. And
I think, I know.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, Banana Chan, especially, like, she deserves a ton of credit for, like, just being willing to appear on literally, like, every live stream and podcast.
Live stream, podcast. People want her to run a game. Senfung runs games and things for, getting that promotion out there. And I think you're right. She deserves a whole bunch of credit for that, especially because as a designer, you can be very proud of what you've done. I mean, we feel the same way about Never Going Home and the +1 system. Like, if people are saying, like, hey, you want to talk about this system? Like, sure, absolutely. And so it's something that they've lived with for so long, and it's so important to them that, yeah, of course, getting that word out there is very important. And it showed, I think it was a combination of the promotional efforts, the fact that it was all out there in the zeitgeist already, that when we launched on day one, I mean, we were funded in I think less than 10 hours. I think it was like 9 hours or right around there. And It was, you often hear that you can get about a 30-year funding on the first 48 hours, a third in the last 48 hours, and then the 30-year funding right in the middle. Our day one was just off the charts comparatively. So I think there were a lot of people that backed on day one, stayed in there, and helped promote it. So there was, I think to the question, that was one thing that we did that was, kind of outside of the norm. That was kind of learning. I don't want to say it's outside of the norm, but it was outside the norm for us. But moving, as we went through the campaign, there were always a lot of questions. There was messaging. One thing that we always try to do is whenever someone backs, we always try to send a thank you note in their messages, which, it's, we had more engagement that way than we've had with any other project. We had people saying, thank you for putting this game out. Thank you for engaging me in this conversation. We had probably about 50 or 60 conversations with other backers about the product, if they had any questions. And we had a back channel where we could talk to the designers and we could talk to people, how do you want to answer this? Or, but for the most part, it was mostly people saying, this was such a personal touch, just thanking us for backing. And to me, as a consumer, I always like getting that rather than just, here's my money and then maybe I'll see this product come to life. But, it's something that I've wanted to make sure we do as a company, to let people know that we truly do value their support and that we couldn't do it without them. Sure. And to know that it's, that kind of goodwill is reciprocated, I think is very important to me as a part of this business.
All right. Do you want to cover? You want to? I don't know. I watched the time, so I don't know how long this has gone. It'll just be.
No, that's fine.
Do you? Are there any other things you wanted to? I mean, I don't want to make this too much about the production, because there's a bunch of like production stuff that we've had to learn. As wedding games, but this is, I don't want this to be that. Like, we can have that conversation some other time, I guess. But like, just about the Kickstarter, any other like new things you had to do or got to do as part of running the Jiangshi Kickstarter?
I think the only other, like, the big things about this specific one, because we are using an international printer for the first time, not only did we have to build that relationship and learn the processes around that, and we're still learning those processes, but we're also using a fulfillment service. We're going to be partnering with Quartermaster Logistics, and highly recommended. We looked at some other companies, and Quartermaster, I think, is where we settled for this one. Well, I know it's where we settled, but it really helps to with international fulfillment and international backing, because most of the time we can, we say, hey, if we're doing Tenebria or we're doing Never Going Home, like, we're going over to this table over here with stacks of books and packing them and shipping them and printing off the shipping labels and everything on our printer here. And this is a completely different beast. This is a larger project. It's, it's a box set game. There's so many other pieces. It's a completely different product, and it's going all over the world. And we have people who've been super excited about it. So we wanted to make sure that we could, deal with international shipping and things like that. So when we work with Quartermaster, they're shipping from, localized distribution centers. We just need to make sure we can get it from the factory to the distribution centers, absorb that and customs costs, and, help reduce shipping costs to the fans and to the backers as much as we can reasonably without, going completely broke. So
Sure.
it's definitely been a learning process, but knock on wood, things are going smoothly. And yeah, we've talked about it before. I know that you and I had talked about it with Never Going Home. Like, can we partner with someone for our European fans? And we are now getting into that space as a company where we can say, yes, we couldn't then, but we're learning more about that process now. So
It's good. It's good. I'm happy that it worked out that way for this project, to be able to at least do the beginning of the sort of global distribution that really big companies do when they do a Kickstarter.
Right. Absolutely.
So speaking of some of the stuff that we've learned, we're recording this at the end of August right now, but this is probably showing up on close to the middle or the end of September. And what's next for us? And importantly, like, because you're probably building this future project that we were about to talk about now.
Yes.
So what knowledge that you just learned from running the Jiangshi Kickstarter have you been able to carry into what you're building up for the next project? And what is the next project?
So the next project is it's Dark Places and Demogorgons, with compatible for the 5th edition of the world's most popular role-playing game. That's Excellent. How you see it. Yeah, Dark Places and Demogorgons is a game by Bloat Games, which is definitely in the vein of Stranger Things and a lot of those 80s horror homages, or true 80s horror movies and television shows and things like that. It was an OSR product and had a lot of fan support, and Eric Bloat and Josh Palmer are the creators of that, and they are, they're great guys. I've known Josh since he worked at one of our local game stores, and I met Eric through mutual channels and found out we work for the same company, and truly just salt of the earth guy. But when we started, he was my first introduction to what OSR was. And so,
which is old school revival,
right? It's very much streamlined rules in the same vein of either old white box D&D or some version of it. If you've played that, you can pick up this and play it. But he apparently had so many people ask about is there any plans for a 5th edition compatible version of this game, and we had talked about doing some kind of partnership at some point, and this is kind of where we landed for our first product from this partnership. So this game is we're taking the draft that Josh and Eric put together, which is just an absolute tome of a product, a tome of a draft. We're going through, tearing up the chunks putting them where we want them, fleshing out certain things, modifying kind of character creation and stuff like that. We're definitely making this its own thing, and it is going to be a fantastic product. It's got art by Alex Coggin, Charles Ferguson Avery, Nick Bradshaw. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to definitely feel, if you've seen Never Going Home or anything like that, how Never Going Home feels like a journal by a World War I soldier. It's going to feel kind of like a composition notebook, a high school slam book, something like that. As you play middle school and high schoolers, going about your daily life, dealing with the struggles of trying to make it to your after school job or to football practice or drama club while, terrible things are happening in your town and you're trying to solve this mystery. Anyway, so that's the product, and I'm I'm absolutely jazzed about it.
Yeah.
I love the kind of genre that it is, and I think the game that Eric and Josh put together really just nails that feel, especially because it deals with in the original version, it dealt with a whole bunch of cryptids that were you know, everyone knew in culture,
Well,
you know,
and urban legends too.
oh
Like it
yeah,
has the ghost car is probably my favorite
oh
from
yeah,
the
the ghost
original
car.
Dark
I
Places and Demogorgons. I mean, that's not really a cryptid. That's
yeah, I mean, that's just cool.
yeah.
um, but I always like the, you know, the Popelik Goat Man
Oh, of course.
because
Local
being,
favorite
yeah, growing up
slash
in
local hero, like
yeah, local,
local anti-hero. I don't know.
like I always went to this summer camp, you know, Cedar Ridge, and we always, you know, that was the ghost story that we would talk about, like, was the Goat Man. And I remember as a kid in the woods, that was like my first time legitimately being scared of like to the point where like I I wouldn't leave my cabin at one point because like I was like, the Goat Man is out there. I heard him walking on the gravel. I know he's there. You know, that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so Dark Places and Demogorgons definitely rings that nostalgia bell for me really hard. Um, and so I want this product um, to resonate with people just as much as it does me, you know. And I know that Eric talks to people. I've sat next to Eric at conventions before, and like when people come and talk about their games or talk about their own local legends and how they've brought them into their games, it's just so cool to see how people take that stuff and say, I'm going to make this mine based on what my gaming group has and the stories that they all know. So it's going to be a cool product. I love the fact that it's going to really feel like that like
Yeah, yeah. I think
notebook or
it's a
almost
great
yearbook
idea.
feel. Like I, part of me, just because I'm just a child at heart, like I really want to just have like, you know, notes scribbled in it, and I really, on the binding, I want someone to say like, I'm the first one to sign in your crack, you know, like just the juvenile dumb stuff that people used to write in people's yearbooks and notebooks, and like I want to have that
I
stuff
can't
all
imagine that that has gone away.
yeah, so
Um,
yeah, I can't imagine that's gone.
like, just hearing the jokes that my nieces and nephews tell, I'm like, I know those. They're immortal, like somehow. Like
Yep.
anyway, so yeah, juvenile humor. It just passes one year after the other
Yep,
through the schools.
absolutely.
Um, all right. So anything just to put on a button on that? Is there anything that specifically that you did it that with the Kickstarter that we ran for Jiangshi that you want to do again or try to do with this? Like any of those stretches, or is this like all right, we're going to pull back and not try and you know grow again so big? Or I mean, you want a lot of people to back it, obviously, but
Yeah.
like as far as like trying to do a complex and big Kickstarter, like what have you learned that you're thinking of putting into this one?
So when we look at like from Never Going Home to Zhangsha to where we are now, like Never Going Home was bigger than we ever thought it was going to be. And instead of, you know, putting things into one book, we ended up making a lot of different books just based on that one Kickstarter. That one Kickstarter ended up like spawning an entire game line, which was great in hindsight.
Sure.
But at the time, it was like, holy crap, we were going to do this, and now it became this. And so it almost became like too big for us at the time. With the
It was big.
Jiangshi, there were options where we said, okay, since it is a boxed set game, how are we going to, you know, are we going to offer, you know, extra stuff? Is that just going to be added to the cost of the main production? Are we going to offer different versions of it? So one thing that I really want to do with Dark Places of Demogorgons is, instead of, like, we're still going to have stretch goals. We're still going to have, excuse me, extra adventures and monsters and things like that in the book, but we are, as opposed to, you know, making Dark Places of Demogorgons and then like these 4 other books, we'll stick with the, excuse me, man, the main book itself, expanding that and making sure that any stretch goal material adds value to that product. The I also really enjoyed the you know, working with our initial printing partner and some of the guidance that we've received from them. You know, working on Tenebria and working on Never Going Home, we can still make a copy of that book that's going to feel like that high school notebook. We still have an opportunity there. However, we also have an opportunity to, you know, make a special deluxe version of it with maybe like ribbon bookmarks and things like that, where if people want to back at a higher level, they still get that value add. You know, they still feel that the thing that they, you know, put 20 extra bucks to is, you know, they've gotten their money's worth. And some of the ideas that we've kicked around for having a yearbook feel is good, is really cool. You know, we can do some really cool things. Here's a picture of the old school, or now we've done an imprint, or hey, you want to personalize it with your name, stuff like that. We can do that, but you know, I want to make sure that instead of printing additional books, we can say in our deluxe tier, you might get this special cover, you might get this name, but you'll also be able to get dice or your GM screen or all this stuff, all the ancillary stuff that you see people, you know, always ask for. But if they don't want to go hunt it down at a convention, or if they don't want to buy it, you know, through their you know, local game store or anything like that, they just want to be able to pay that one price and get it. And for us, potentially offering that to them at a discount is great. You know, that's to one-stop shop. They get what they want. And that's something that the boxed set model of Jiangshi really accentuated for me, because we didn't necessarily have to, you know, offer 17 other extra stretch goals. We could just say, we're going to make this stuff. If you want it all at a discounted price, do this. If you want to buy them individually, sorry, that's not exactly how we're structuring this Kickstarter right now. So I think that's a good direction with it. And I think a lot of people, I mean, you see games like BFF or Humblewood, or you see a lot of these these box set games that are coming out that just give people that holistic experience right out of the box, right at the get-go. And I think that's, you know, a direction that you'll see this market going.
All right, cool. So you ready to wrap this thing up with a little bit of pitching for new ideas?
Yes.
All right. So I know you've watched some of these others, but for those of you, if this is your first one of these videos, you who are watching, what's going to happen is we're going to put 5 minutes on a timer. I got it right here. I'm going to throw out some ideas, and we're going to just pitch it back and forth. Spend 5 minutes developing this concept just a little bit. So are you ready, Brandon?
I was born ready, Matt.
All right. So I know you like tabletop war games.
Mm-hmm.
You've played a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
I know you like food trucks. I want to put those two things together.
Ooh.
I want it to be, but here's the thing. Like, I don't want it to just be like a war game where like your burrito cannon has an AoE effect on the falafel truck or whatever. Like, I mean, that could be fun. There could be some of that too, but like, I think I want it to be like the way Blood Bowl Team Manager isn't really about playing Blood Bowl. It's about managing the teams, but somehow still like with the little models of the trucks on the thing. So like, I don't know, like those, that's the starting point. That's the starting point.
All right. We started, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the first thing that comes to mind is, I mean, there have been like food truck card games and board games. You know, I've seen them on Kickstarter. Those are actually a few Kickstarters I haven't backed. But one thing that I'll say is like food truck foodies, like fans, like people know they have their favorite food trucks. So I kind of like the idea of your food trucks being what you know, they hold zones or they hold locations in order to score points.
Yeah.
And your, as opposed to using weapons to like damage other food trucks, you are trying to win over customers. You're just trying to win over fans. And so maybe those are kind of like the units that you have, and you get to a certain amount of loyalty with consumers that then, like, you know, they may wait in a certain zone while you're populating another zone, something like that.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the way to do it. And you've got like I was imagining almost like, instead of like the sort of like spray cone that you might imagine, it's like that's your advertising horn blast or whatever, where you're like, you're shooting, you may have an advertisement that goes down a lane, like line of sight type, like advertising, or you've got like this speaker thing that like affects everyone in this direction or something like that, to like kind of compete with each other for those points or customers in the area.
Your leaflets and you know could be your leaflet campaign or whatever, or your email blast could be reaching AOE somewhere else. And but I also like the idea of maybe having like a pop-up shop at a farmer's market or something, where it's just like, it's completely, you know, outside of the normal order of operations.
Sure, if you had like you like a series of maps, almost like you had like this, the farmers market map, which is like a lot of really tight corners and stuff like that, so that you can't use those like long blast. You know, the advertising doesn't work as well because line of sights are so obscured at a farmer's market, whereas like street corner or something like that. Or you could have the Gen Con map, where it's like, it looks like the outside of Gen Con, and like there's just so many people on there. It's like it's almost too easy to play that one.
You got to fight for your position though, because if you're towards the front, you'll get a whole bunch. But I also like the resource management, where maybe we could even sure, the farmers market map, like you park over here, but you're not going to get access to as many customers. But if you spend $200, you get a stall in the farmers market, which gets you more access, things like that. But also your menu,
you don't want to run out of stuff, so like supply lines become important, and like, can you refill your, I don't know how many times I've gone to a thing and like the thing I want is out, like, oh, we're out of potatoes, like no more potatoes today, like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll move along to some other truck then.
There was a game called Kitchen Rush that came out at one point that actually used sand timers. So it was managing that time. So you could say like, okay, I really need to cook something here, and it's going to take this long. So you turn over the sand timer, but then someone else needed to use that station. So you had to wait until the sand timer was done so you could flip it over.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, I like that, either sand timers or some other kind of countdown
that
mechanism.
Would really contribute to that sort of like war game tabletop movement and sand timer thing. Like it would be very physical to manipulate that. And real quick, like, what about the models? Like customizable food trucks? Like, you're going to put your little logo signs on there or whatever?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely want to have a donut on top of one.
All right. Well, that was our 5 minutes. Maybe someday we'll be at the point where we're making miniatures games, and look for, Food Truck Battle 2024.
That'd be great.
But, gosh, I'm so old that like Food Truck Battle 2024 sounds like a sci-fi game, but that's just not that far away from now.
Not that far away.
All right, Brandon, thanks for doing this interview today. Thanks for talking about Kickstarter and all the other stuff for Wedding Games. got any final closing thoughts for the people watching this video?
No, thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. And yeah, go check out any wet ink products that we have on Kickstarter, and track us down on social media. Follow us there.
Yeah. Good plan. Good plan. Thank you for watching. Thank you. All right, Brandon, say goodbye.
Goodbye.